But Ben, we had a question from someone who left us a fantastic review. We really appreciate that. And it was a cool question. So I wanted to start the show out with it. It talks about DeAndre Swift and what to do with him in Dynasty. He's still young, and yet at the same time, he's extremely highly valued, but there are a number of things that make his value volatile, right? He's building an injury history. And whether or not you believe that the injury history is something that has a predictive element, we know that that is in the mind of other managers in your league. The value change is going to be real, even if the actual impact on his body is not. He's rarely been trusted with a full workload, but he's maybe one of the top 3 or 4 running backs in the NFL in terms of explosiveness and highlight ability. He's this incredible receiver. We talk from time to time about cashing in before the running back's value dips, and that's the question here. Should we do this given that it's likely the apex of his fantasy value? How are we handling a guy that we absolutely love, and yet fast forward 12 months from now, and you could be trying to get out at a much, much lower price?
Yeah, he's really interesting. That's a fun one because part of the deal with Swift last year, and then I think again this year, is that people are discounting him too much because of the offense he's in when he still has quite a bit of potential. Maybe not as much touchdown equity as we'd like to see, but certainly has shown real receiving upside with rushing upside as well. And that's what you're looking for, obviously. And so price is always so important. The cashing in thing for me, I always think of it in terms of the guys who have risen to like clear first round redraft value, and Swift maybe should be considered on that level, but isn't always considered on that level and hasn't been yet to this point in his career. And so I can almost see a case for him not being the right guy to cash in on if he's still sort of undervalued relative to what he could provide you in like a league winning type season. He's only 23, turned 23 back in January. If he had a monster year, I think there's still room for his value to rise in certain leagues. It certainly depends on how age sensitive your league is. I could see going either way on this.
I can as well. We have a situation here where I think that Swift is someone that you're both trying to buy and sell. And the price in your individual league is going to be very important. Also, your build is going to be important. We talk a lot about these trades and being a little bit build agnostic, being willing to make moves to sell even when you're sort of cruising toward the championship game, and moves to buy, vice versa, all those types of situations to make sure you're always maximizing the total value of your roster. But one of the things that we're also looking at here is just that you're going to get some very different prices in different leagues. I think if you can buy that, there's a chance that he's the guy who wins it for you this year, and then after he wins it this year, you can sell. And so there are going to be some other managers also trying to do that, but Swift is one of my guys. I think that the Lions can take a step forward. I think that he can be really the star of the 2022 fantasy season. If that's the case, then you'll want him now, and you should be able to sell him at, as you mentioned, that redraft type of price of 101 to sort of 104-ish next year. Based on him going in that range, you'll be able to get an absolute ton. He's just young enough to make that work. Whereas obviously we're seeing prices on players like Dalvin Cook and Alvin Kamara this offseason are not very good in fantasy.
But Kamara, I think, is a really interesting comp, and we've used that comp for Swift's profile, where he finally had that sort of legendary season at age 25 where he got the 21 touchdowns and everything came together in 2020. And even though he was, 25 going on 26, I'm not entirely certain what his dynasty price was last offseason, but I have to imagine it didn't fall off a ton, and it maybe even rose after that year finally hit. So that's sort of my thought on Swift, is there's still some room for him to have, if he has that type of Kamara season in year 3, or even, in year 4 in 2023, that his value could still be higher in the future. And that's not really true for a lot of running backs going into their third year, but he came in at age 21. He's still young enough that I think probably his value could rise. So definitely an interesting guy to think about in terms of dynasty value.
Did you enjoy that clip? Make sure you hit that subscribe button to get more content from RotoViz. And of course, you can check out full-length podcasts at rotoviz.com. rotoviz.com/podcast. Available on all podcast platforms. Check out our wide range of content. Once again, rotoviz.com/podcast.